About 20 years ago, I completed grad school in Philadelphia with a master's in education. And even then, I knew I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I couldn't really see myself teaching forever. But right away, I was offered a great position earning $52,000 a year, which at 23 years old seemed like $1 million. So I took the job and began my teaching career. But I have a confession to make. Teaching was not my passion. What I lived for was the most incredible, high-intensity sport in the world. Marching band. That's middle school Rob up there. Man, I had great hair. But I loved marching band. Even the first business I started during grad school was writing music for competitive marching bands. 2 years later, I was then offered my dream job, an executive role at one of the top marching band instrument companies in the world, with promises of fortune and industry fame. Now, at the same time, I was also just getting serious with the most incredible woman in the world. So, I had a choice to make. Do I seize the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, or stay close to my girl and my safe, comfortable job? Well, I went for it. I quit my job, left my girl, moved 2,000 miles away, and began a new career and gave it everything I had. I would get there early, leave late, and come in on the weekends. After a couple months, it was time for my 60-day evaluation. And I could just hear the CEO saying, "Rob, you're crushing it. I'm so glad we hired you." And I sat down and he looked right at me and said, "Rob, it's just not working out. You're fired. Also, because today is day 58 and not yet day 60, according to your contract, we don't owe you any severance. Goodbye." So at 25 years old, I was unemployed, thousands of miles from home. The school year already started, so getting a new teaching gig wasn't going to happen. So I went home and moved back in with my parents. Ground zero. I was completely deflated, totally depressed. And then things got worse. You see, my health was getting really bad. I didn't quite know how bad because I had all these little food hacks I thought were kind of helping. Breakfast would be a bagel, cream cheese, coffee, lots of cream, but 0-calorie sweetener. Lunch was a big sandwich with meat, cheese, and mayo, but pretzels instead of chips. I mean, pretzels are healthier, right? It says 0 fat on the bag. Dinner would be a fast food burger, extra large fries, but a diet soda. I got so heavy that everyday things became hard. I would start sweating going up the stairs and get out of breath bending over to tie my shoes. So one morning I'm getting dressed and I grab my belt, hold my breath, and barely squeeze in to the first hole. And as I exhaled, a sigh of relief. The belt stretched so tight that the buckle popped off, flew across the room, and made a hole in the wall. And in that moment, I froze, mouth open, just staring at that hole in the wall, thinking, what's happened to me? Reality hit me like a sledgehammer, and I was officially at rock bottom. I was 80 pounds overweight, failed with the woman I loved, failed at my dream job, living in my parents' house, sleeping in the twin bed I grew up in. And I took a lot of time to really think about why I was failing so hard in so many areas of my life. I knew something had to change. I had to become a completely new man. The problem was that the transformation I wanted seemed so overwhelming. The destination seemed so far from the starting point. And maybe that's happened to you before when you want something so desperately, you just don't know how to get it. And every challenge I faced seemed impossible to overcome until I had an incredible realization. That permanent habit formation follows a predictable formula, one you can repeat again and again. And so my idea worth spreading is how to stop failing at forming new habits so you can reliably achieve the goals that are most important to you. And if your belt buckle pops off along the way, you'll know exactly what to do next. So I began an incredible journey of self-transformation, starting with the problem that had already ejected itself across the room, my health. I tried running, hated it, too boring. I tried dieting and I just couldn't stick to it. My chicken fingers and fries were too tempting. But then I saw a commercial for a home workout program called P90X, claiming in just 90 days, you could transform your body with a pull-up bar, some dumbbells, and a yoga mat. And it sounded too good to be true, but a lot of people seemed to do really well with it. So I ordered the program. It came with a set of workout videos you just follow along with and a nutrition book with meal plans. Well, reality set in immediately. I couldn't complete any of the workouts, and leg day left me so sore, I had to crawl up and down the stairs for 2 weeks. But I kept going, and I finished the 90 days, and I made some progress, but I did not get the transformation I was promised on the TV. But deep down, I knew why. It was because I didn't stick to the nutrition, because that aspect was really out of my comfort zone. Mentally, there was so much resistance to changing my eating habits that I just didn't do it. So I decided to go all in, restart the program for another 90 days, and commit to both the workouts and nutrition. And it was hard. The old cravings were still there, but I pushed through it, and here's the shift that changed everything. I stopped focusing on what I was giving up and started focusing on what I would gain. Instead of dreaming about my chicken fingers and fries at the restaurant, I would think, I want a long life and a healthy body that gives me confidence, and I'm going to get it. And that is when the real transformation started. One morning, halfway through the second round, I looked in the mirror and saw something I'd never seen before. The outline of abs. And I said, whoa, who knew those were under there? And that's what I call the proof of concept moment. The first time you see real, tangible results from your efforts. In that instant, discipline turned into desire. I stopped fighting healthy habits and actually started enjoying them. And in a total of 6 months, I lost 80 pounds and had a physique I thought was meant only for others, but not for me. After decades of believing I wasn't capable, I proved just how fast things can change with the right habits. I learned 2 very important things from that experience. First is that habits don't actually start as habits. They begin as disciplined decisions. Second is those disciplined decisions dictate your future. Achieving any goal comes down to making the right daily decisions until they become automatic habits. So the formula started taking shape. Make disciplined decisions by focusing on what you'll gain, not the pain, until you reach the proof of concept moment. The best part about forming new habits is it leads to even better ones. It makes you think, what else am I capable of? Well, for me, the answer was competitive bodybuilding. Applying the formula, I knew I needed a goal to become a winning bodybuilder, a habit, stick to the training and diet every day, no matter what, and a proof of concept moment, which I decided would be competing in a show. I didn't have to win, I just had to do it. So I hired a coach and followed the plan for over a year, every workout, every meal. My physique reached a level I once thought impossible, and then it was time for my first show. And just like my first P90X workout, it didn't exactly go as planned. Bodybuilders need to tan before we get on stage so you can see the muscle definition. Well, I messed mine up. I did the tan, but it didn't stick. So as I was posing and sweating on stage, my tan was literally melting off. A huge streak of white going right down my chest, and I was so frustrated. But I shook it off and remained confident. I could just hear the announcer saying, "And in first place, Rob Stein." And as awards began, he said, "In last place, Rob Stein." Well, not what I wanted to hear, but I reached my proof of concept moment by competing in the show. And despite my tanning malfunction, I knew I had what it takes. I continued the process, and the following year, with my tan completely intact, won all my shows and became a champion natural bodybuilder. I learned 2 more very important things from that experience. First is that there is no set amount of time that it takes to form a habit. Some take longer than others. Second is the only thing that gets you to that magical proof of concept moment is making the right decisions consistently, not just sometimes. Most people think they fail because they lack discipline, when really consistency is the issue. And they are similar, but there's one critical difference. Consistency requires discipline, but discipline does not require consistency. When I was competing, I went to my best friend's wedding 1 week before a show. Now, diet is everything in contest prep, so I showed up to his wedding with a cooler of cold chicken and broccoli. While everyone enjoyed an elegant meal, I quietly ate my food. I toasted with a gallon of water and, against all instinct, skipped the cake. Here's the lesson. Bringing my food to a wedding was a single act of discipline. Doing things like that every day for 6 months, that's consistency. Discipline can be a one-time thing. Someone can be disciplined for an hour, a day, or a week. But consistency is what's needed for the habit to form. Well, I was really getting the hang of it now, and so I added to the formula. Make disciplined decisions consistently by focusing on what you'll gain, not the pain, until you reach the proof of concept moment. So, using this formula, I had conquered my health, and my belt had surrendered, and it was time to move on to the next challenge, my career. After moving home, I did get back to teaching, but I wanted to build my business, the one I started in grad school, writing music for bands. I just didn't know if I was good enough or even capable of building and scaling a business while having a full-time job. So I put the formula to the test. The goal, build a thriving business and retire from teaching. The habit, write music every day, no matter what. And the proof of concept moment, I decided would be selling my music to a band who never heard of me, purely on merit. And again, I went all in, up early for school, teaching all day, and writing all night until bed. And I could just hear the director saying, "Rob, we'd love to use your music." But as I started calling, they all said, "Rob, we're using someone else's music." Now this was a first. You see, with my fitness, no one could reject me. But here, even while doing everything right, I still wasn't getting what I wanted. And for the first time, I got really discouraged. But then I realized my problem wasn't discipline or desire. It was my emotions of guilt and shame. When people begin to struggle, they feel guilt followed by shame. Why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? Maybe I'm just not good enough. And when we feel that way, we don't make good choices. So let go of guilt and shame and replace them with love. Behind every motivation to change a behavior is a love for the reason you're doing it. So when forming a new habit, the question isn't, how long does it take? It's, why does this matter to you? If you want a habit to stick, attach it to an outcome you love. And that's exactly what I did. I let go of rejection and focused on my love for music and the life I wanted, and I kept writing. And then, one day, it happened. A band in another state found my website and bought my music. Boom, proof of concept. I made $2,000 with a click of a button, and I knew I could do it. And within a few years, I grew that business to 5 times my teaching salary and retired to become a full-time entrepreneur. So now, the formula had worked in 2 completely different areas, health and business. And again, it made me think, what else am I capable of? Can this really work in anything? Can I achieve a life of financial freedom and total control of my time? So I put it to the test one more time, this time in real estate. The goal, build another thriving business. The habit, do the lead generating work every day, no matter what. And the proof of concept moment would be my first commission. And I'll never forget the first appointment I had, a 3-hour lunch meeting with a first-time home buyer that I paid for. And I could just hear him saying, "Yes, Rob, I'd love to work with you." And he looked at me and said, "No, I want someone more experienced." And I learned something really important that day. Don't pay for lunch until after the agreement's signed. But by then, I knew what to do. I let go of rejection and focused on the outcome I wanted, financial and time freedom, and I kept showing up. And then, again, it happened. I closed my first 3 deals all in the same week, and those commissions equaled my former annual teaching salary. Talk about proof of concept. I continued the process and became a top 5% agent nationwide. And out of all of these experiences, I learned what I believe is one of the most important lessons. Just because something is proven and repeatable doesn't make it easy, but it is worth it. And since then, I've built and grown even more businesses in speaking, online courses, coaching, and writing books, all by using this same exact formula. Because when you know this works, you stop asking, what if? And start asking, what's next? Now, you may be wondering, hey, whatever happened to the most incredible woman in the world? Well, after moving home, we did get back together, and eventually it was time to propose. I chose, of all places, a marching band competition in a packed stadium. Not my smartest decision. Before the finale, I was handed the microphone, and I had the perfect speech planned. And I could just hear her saying, "Yes, I'll marry you." Well, I made my speech. She made her way down the stands, onto the track, looked right into my eyes, and said, "Yes, I'll marry you." And today we're happily married and have a beautiful daughter. If I can go from an overweight, underpaid teacher with half a belt to everything I just shared, anyone can do this. And sure, you'll face some adversity along the way. Maybe you'll get fired from your dream job. Maybe you'll have to crawl up the stairs after your first workout. Maybe your tan will melt off when you least expect it. But now you know exactly what to do next. When you lead with love instead of guilt, you make better choices. Keep it up, and discipline turns into desire. You do that enough times, and it is impossible to fail. And the only outcome is turning that dream life into a reality. Thank you.